You can use water to generate electricity. You can use water to, you know, water in different ways. It's so simple, but it's amazing. And of course, as you work with it more and more, you become more of an expert, and then you start understanding how the human works. Like a lot of anger has under it sadness. So you say you're angry that the boss is really mean to you. But you're also sad that you're being treated like this. So you start to find there's another emotion. You start to also understand yourself. Why does this bother me? Does it remind me of my father? Does it remind me of an awful teacher? Does it remind me that I'm not confident enough? What is it doing inside me that made me so angry? And then the events look different. And it's a way of growing. It's a way of, and your health improves. This is why I'm off medicine. I don't even take aspirin for 5 years. I've just decided, because you can use it for pain also, physical stuff. They discovered that by chance. It somehow sends messages to the mind that are actually sending the messages of pain to say, stop that, just stop that. And the mind will do that.
So you wrote a book regarding this, of course, titled Comfort is Within Your Hand. So the title is very attractive, of course, and we'd like to know more about it.
Yeah, here's the book. In Arabic, it is Comfort is in Your Hand, and I made sure to show the hand, because from the first day we use the hand, and all your comfort is in your hand. Not only, the first step is to remove all these negative emotions. Then you go on to building your confidence. You go on to being more proud of yourself. You go on to changing misguided beliefs. So like if I have a belief that if I'm rich, I'll be, people will look at me badly or they think I was a thief, I can change that. And if I change that belief, it physically changes in the brain. They've done something called functional MRI, what lights up in the brain. So if you change that belief and it totally goes away, then it's easy for you to accept the job that pays you more, to have a company, to have this. So you can do a lot. So your whole comfort, your whole life is around that. Now, I wrote this book in a certain way. It's my first book. And I do like to write. I was a writer before. I mean, I do like to write, but I haven't written that much. I made sure it's in Arabic because I thought, you know, we need to spread it. Number two, I just wrote stories. But I wove in the stories the techniques, because we have lots of little techniques within the technique. It's all the 8 points, but like we have what we call it's EFT is non-traumatizing. So let's say you went through a war situation, or you were in Tahrir and somebody really was very brutal. That might be it's hard to go to a talk therapist and talk about it. You don't want to talk about what you saw. In EFT, we have like what we call a movie technique. Like we dissociate you from it. Okay, tell the story, but it's not your story. And somehow it's very gentle. We don't have people having to re-traumatize. And that is what is amazing about it. So when they went to Rwanda, that's how they worked with the people. Young children and everybody. And Rwanda's now like, it's doing really well. And because they've dealt with all these traumas. This is what, quite frankly, in Israel, there's like 600 centers to help people with what the Palestinians are doing to the Israelis, they say. Whatever it is. Because they see they have been traumatized. They're sitting in a mall and something happens. All the societies have been traumatized. We have been traumatized. So this book I wrote in a simple language. Anybody can read it. Anybody can read it. It's my first book. It's not very scientific. But every story has
But maybe these people, they are not suffering like Arab community in general. Just as you mentioned, for example, definitely what are they suffering from? What Palestinians are doing to them, you know, in their own, this is their own ideology. But, you know, talking about it also, you mentioned something that is important, that you have to control your thoughts, something like to meditate, for example, or something like this. So it also is not only about touching, but how are you going to touch? Because if you are nervous, for example, just touching like this and like this.
Oh, no. Well, what we're going to do is, let's say you're really nervous. Take a minute and maybe go to the bathroom and do the tapping. Take a minute and calm down. There are other simpler techniques.
Can we join it also with just thinking about something that can really make me feel at ease, for example?
You could, but it seems to have not really worked. Like even positivity, there was something called positive psychology at one point. Didn't really work, because if the mind has, what happens is they are, these neurons are sparking. They're lighting up. They're actually lighting up. They can see it. So when you're in stress, these neurons are like going crazy. If you're telling, oh, it's okay by words, it doesn't work. What happens with EFT, it does what we call scientifically pattern interrupt. It goes in the neural pathway and it doesn't let the electricity pass through. So you're breaking down the process. What happens also as you do it a lot, the body gets used to being more in the neutral state. So things happen and you're like, interesting. You'll be really amazed. People are like jumping up and down, yelling, and you're like, that's interesting.
So, of course, we hope that all the people have a positive attitude and they share the happiness and eliminate their minds from the negative attitude. Dear viewers, as we wrap up our first segment, we'd like to thank our guest in the studio, Myrette Sokkari. She's a happiness coach. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And for the tips you gave us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we'll be back after this very short break, so stay tuned.
An accountant by day, Walid Khouais returns each evening to a home that reflects his true passion in life, music. The Beiruti has been collecting gramophone vinyl recordings of Arabic music since 1986. It all started when his family decided to acquire the complete works of Farid al-Atrash, an Egyptian-Syrian composer considered one of the most important figures of the 20th century in Arab music. But the collection grew significantly after that and now fills floor-to-ceiling shelves throughout his home. Initially, Khouais focused on collecting complete series of vintage vinyl records of famous Arab singers such as Kulthum. But later he decided to expand his collection to include music from elsewhere in the world. He's won countless awards from the Lebanese Ministry of Culture and Information for his efforts in conserving the Arab world's musical heritage. Now, he says his aim is to make the music available to a wider audience. As well as records, he also collects phonographs, vintage TVs and radio sets. His collection also includes around 20,000 black and white slides of Beirut, Palestine, Egypt and Jordan dating back to 1914. As he acquires more and more items, he hopes to one day be able to display the artifacts in a public space to allow more people to enjoy his priceless collection.
صار أنا شغال